if we're going to build an absolute powerhouse of a national brand and turn that into an international brand, there is not enough. There is not enough. It just keeps going. It just keeps growing. And if I die before I see the end of it, then so be it. Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso, and I'm here with my co-host and badass boss babe, Miss Amanda May. Welcome back again. What's this like sheer thing? See, these are the types of things that if dudes wore, it'd be quite different than if you. I should get myself one of those.
It's flowy. I like the flowy fabrics. It makes me feel very royal.
I like anything see-through on a female. So we're aligned on.
Well, you can see my arms.
Yeah,
lucky you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
So
whatever.
if you're just listening and you want to see my arms, go to YouTube. If you'll be able to see my arms.
She's wearing see-through clothes. Weird. So today we're going to talk about something that separates the winners from really the rest of the people out there, and that's intentionality. Being 100% intent on taking control of your life, owning your life, having that accountability, and moving forward in a proactive manner rather than a reactive manner. Like owning every single decision you make, whether or not it was you believe, I won't say it was, but you believe it was your fault or not, letting life just happen to you, going out there and making life happen. And really, this is one of the greatest predictors, I think, of success, period, hands down. So let's get into it today.
Yeah. This word to me also speaks deliberate, like deliberately creating your life, living deliberately. It's like interchangeable, I think, intentionality and living deliberately. But that's definitely a word I like to use because I think it's something that it's easy for people to talk about, but it's a little bit harder to live out because it takes more time and it takes more focus and it takes you being intentional with your day and your life and what you're actually creating and not believing that it's just going to happen to you, but because you're lucky or something like that. But it's like you actually intentionally went out and created it. It's not given. It's literally created, but the truth is success comes to people who are deliberate, who are proactive in what they're doing, and they take a much more bold approach to life. And that's what being intentional is all about. It's this bold action toward what it is that you want to create. And you have to have a lot of clarity to do that. So we're going to talk about that today and how that works in leadership and business and how to encourage it in your family, your friends, and in your own life along the way. So it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, let's get into it. So number one, first thing I want you guys to realize is that intentionality will separate you from being an average person to an absolute elite person. Every single highly wealthy, highly effective business owner I know are absolute intentional about everything they do. Whether they're running multi-million-dollar companies or leading teams or crushing it in their personal lives, they are hyper intentional about everything that they do. They're hyper intentional about how they spend their time. They're hyper intentional about who they surround themselves with. They're hyper intentional about what they look at on Instagram or what they consume in the news. They don't just wake up and have life come at them. They are focused on building the exact life that they want to. They plan it, they execute it, then they adjust, and then they keep moving forward, plan, execute, adjust on a consistent basis, day after day after day, week after week after week, and that obviously translates into month after month. They do not at all tolerate distractions. And that's definitely something you guys need to know as a business owner, is that as I started to get bigger in business, the amount of yeses that came out of my mouth for things outside of things directly related to my business went down significantly. It was more no's. "No, I don't have the time for that. I don't have time to do this." That's why currently I don't go on anybody else's podcast. I don't have time. I create the Spinoso podcast, and that's about it. Now, if somebody who had a giant podcast invited me on, it was a mentor of mine, yeah, I'd probably say yes. I'm not there yet. But that being said, I'm intentional with my time. I try and reduce outside noise as much as possible. I don't go anywhere with people that I'm not like business friends with. And wherever we do go, it's because my wife has made friends with people. And when I go, I don't have usually anything in common with the people there because growing your business, that's all you want to talk about is business. That's all. And not just it's not just talking about yourself, but business owners get it. They want to talk about business.
Mm.
This is my hobby. This is what I love to do, business and cars. That's it. Nothing else other than that. So that's what I wanna talk about on a consistent basis, and those highly effective people, again, they don't do anything other than what they are highly effective at. They do not allow any other distractions in their life, period. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of clarity. You have a lot of clarity about what it is that you wanna create, your goals, your desires, and you've defined what you want for your future, and that's where you keep your focus. And that's being very intentional, but it honestly starts with clarity. And so if you don't know what you want, you really can't be intentional about getting it because you're in like an ambivalent place, or it might be like, well, I want success, but I don't want to work the hours. I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to not spend a lot of money. And then that would give me money to invest. But I want this, but I also want that. Or it's like that I wanna go to the movies, but I don't wanna go alone. Well, which one do you really want? Because you can't be stuck between 2. So you gotta have clarity because that's where it creates action to actually have the vision that you're going to reach. And so, I think the first step, at least what I've seen in my own life and have heard in many people's lives, and actually goes back to a biblical principle as well, is write it down, make it clear, and get specific. It's like the more specific you are and the more you can see it, like visualize it. Now, you don't have to do like woohoo, like visualization sessions, but I do think that those work. I like those myself. If I want something, I will go to bed and intentionally visualize what I want the next day to be. So if I have like a big meeting or something that I know for sure I want a specific outcome on, like visualizing the conversation, the outcome, the feeling of having it, the feeling of being there, and the more specific you can get with those types of things, the more intentional you can be in creating it. But I think it's super powerful to write it down, and I don't know the scripture exactly, but I've, uh, been in church many, many years, and so there is scripture about writing it down, making it plain. I think it's Habakkuk 2:3. Now that I'm thinking about the scripture, but it talks about that, and the vision will be fulfilled. So there is something very powerful about actually writing it down. Because I think too, like, I'm going off on a little tangent with this whole writing it down concept because, free writing, like, have you ever done that?
Mhm, yeah.
It's just like it clears the mind, like, anything that's in there, it just gets out on paper, and it's wild because, like, as you're writing, you have so much more that comes out of you that when you're just in your mind, it's kinda convoluted, but as you get clarity writing things down, it's like new ideas come, and you're not monitoring yourself, so it's almost like a spiritual flow, like, I people call it a mind dump, which doesn't sound as, fancy as spiritual flow, but but whatever you wanna label that, write it down, make it clear, and really get specific about what you want to create and the vision you have so that you can be intentional in doing it.
Yeah, there's a long I don't know if we've ever done a podcast about it, but there is a way of writing things down and notes called the Zettelkasten. I don't know if you've heard it.
No.
It's probably pronounced Zettelkasten. But it is a, way of, writing notes. So the most published author in the history of man was this gentleman Zettelkasten, and it was a way that he wrote notes. So he would, write one-page summaries of essentially anything that he read, anything he was thinking about, all his ideas, etcetera, and he coded them a certain way. So what and he filed them in a certain way. And the cool thing now is that with AI and with, technology, you don't have to he filed these in obviously a filing cabinet with paper, and it was a small they were small little 3 by 5 cards
Mm.
that he wrote all the notes on. So it wasn't a long thing. He had to make sure he was very succinct with his thoughts, but he would write down a thought or a phrase or something he liked, and then he would write down his thoughts and ideas based off of that phrase or based off of that idea, filed it, and the way he coded each of the cards is you could take his system, pull out a card, look at the code, and then go to other drawers that he had based off that code and pull other cards that were related to that idea.
Interesting.
So what happened is that he had all these ideas from books and readings and opinions and novels, all from different things, but they had different categories. And he published like a long form uh, article in the newspaper every day for like 40 years. He had written like 1,000 books, and it wasn't because writing a book takes forever where you're thinking of an idea and whatever. It was because he had all of these ideas that if he wanted to write a book, let's say on uh, the history of philosophers, he had all these notes already written and his opinions and thoughts and phrases and citations of all these books he had seen or all these books he had read on the opinions of philosophers. So he would pull all those together and immediately he had a book written already.
Wow.
So that's he was able to churn books like crazy that way because he was always thinking about
That's
those
like the
things and connecting
ultimate
those. Yep.
strategy and
Oh,
organization.
it was it
Like,
was
that excites my
badass.
senses
Oh,
to
yeah,
hear.
it's super exciting, and I use, an app now, so when I get around to it, which is obviously not the concept of it, but when I get around to it, I use this app called Obsidian, and it automatically does it for you and creates a mind map, and you can create almost like hashtags, but then it will connect the things on the backside to it, so
Mm.
Obsidian's a good app for that if you wanna be more technology, driven, but that part is what you're talking about, um, you know, write it down. You're writing it down, writing those ideas down, and then the next step is to take action on those things. So writing it down is great. Getting it out on paper is great. You should. My friend and mentor Andy Frisella, he has something called the Power List, where you write down the 5 things that you need to do that day to move you forward in your business. And like working out, that's not one of the 5 things. It's like set up a meeting or have a meeting with X vendor. Like
Mhm.
those are things that are moving your business forward, not like eating well or working out. Those are things that you should be doing every day anyways. So that doesn't count. It's 5 things that you could do in your business or on your business to move forward. It calls it the power list and it's extremely powerful. Again, you write it down, you're intentional, you're clear on what you need to succeed in, and then you're moving forward and actually doing it. So a lot of people will take the time, they'll sit and they'll plan, and then they'll overthink, and then they'll doubt themselves. On one of our charismatics calls last night, one of the young women, a great business leader, is talking about adding other services to her clinic. And she's like, I do weight loss and hormone therapy right now for men. I'm thinking of adding hormone therapy for females, and I'm thinking of adding sexual health. But there's 5 other providers in my area. I am in a small town, 45,000 people. There's 5 other providers already doing sexual health. And I said, "Okay, well, what are the other services that those providers are doing?" And, med spa services, weight loss, hormones, things like that. Okay, so you're telling me that the other 5 providers are also doing weight loss? Yes. Okay, then why the fuck are you doing it? Well, we have a better service. You get where I'm going, right? And she got it right then and there. She's like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Like, a lot of times, providers, they'll plan, they'll overthink.
Mm.
What are all the things that could go wrong? And then you start to doubt yourself. And that what if kills more dreams than anything. We had, we were talking with a private equity group, and they're like, "Well, what if this happens?" Yeah, okay, what if? Like, you're just making shit up now. It's essentially what I told him. If I lived and built my business based off what if, like, we would never be here where we are today. Like, who cares about the what if? Could it happen? Yeah. Will it happen? Maybe 1 out of the 10 times of the what if. The rest of the times, it will never fucking happen. And
Mhm.
so the 1 out of the 10 times, okay, cool, we can deal with it at that time, but moving forward, if you never move forward, then you'll never be able to actually chase down that goal. You'll never like, if you're never proactive and really aggressive, you're never gonna get anywhere anyways. So, what's the worst that can happen if you build all this shit and it goes away or it fails or whatever? Well, you go back to where the fuck you are right now.
Yeah.
And I tell providers this all the time, where if you set the course and you commit to it, you know, you've been successful your whole life. Obviously, you graduated middle school and high school and medical school or nurse practitioner school. You obviously did all those things and you are successful at it because you learned a lot and you researched it and you studied at night and everything like that. So if you did the same in business, there's almost no way that you can fucking fail at all. And if you do fail, what is the worst that can happen if you're a medical provider? You can walk into any hospital, any urgent care, and be like, I need a job. And they'll say, yeah, happily, because there is always a shortage of medical providers.
Yeah. And if you are listening to this and you're struggling in that what if, then go back and listen to our podcast about opportunities, because opening doors to opportunities will give you some clarity on how to get unstuck if you're stuck in that phase of what if. But yeah, exactly. And excuse me. A lot of people, when they spend that time planning, it's really, I mean, it's good to plan because that's what we're talking about with writing things out, but I think that's more on like, a uh, getting clear. There's a bit of strategic planning necessary in that, but then there has to be room for you to not wait until the perfect time, but keep moving forward. And as you move, more things will be revealed to you. And then you can get, it's not like you write things down one time, you get clear, you're specific, and then that's it. And you're intentional. And then I mean, that's all you need to do. It's like, this is a lifestyle. Like you have to constantly be reevaluating and getting re-cleared on new things that come up. I don't think re-clear is a word, but I made it up. So we're gonna go with it. But
Clearer.
clearer, clearer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
No, just
that's what
making
I
that up
meant.
too.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's a matter of like reevaluating, as you have more data, what needs to happen next, and then sit down, get clear again with your new reference point, because every step along the way, new things will be revealed. You have a new reference point. You can make different decisions based on, where you are at that time. But it's taking action toward what you're setting out to create, whatever the vision is.
Yeah. So what are like when you're doing that and you're sitting that down, you're telling me the practical ways are really to set those clear boundaries and then creating a system, right? So what do you how are you able to be more intentional? Like what are the steps that people should do to be more intentional?
Well, I mean, setting clear priorities, like what you talked about, the Power of 5 list, or Power 5
That's power list.
power list.
Yeah. 5
Uh,
things, but it's just called the power list.
okay, so I do the exact same thing in my productivity planner, and I've been using this product. It was given as a gift from another business uh, guy that I know. He had given it to me years ago, and I've been using one ever since. And it's the 5 most important. You have at the beginning of the week, you're filling out your 5 most important things for the week, the second 5 most important things for the week, and then any additional tasks for the week. And then you go through and you take one of your 5 most important things and you put one of those on every day of the week. So at the end of the week, you've completed the 5 most important things for your entire week. You've completed one each day. So it's like that's the first thing you're knocking out every day, which is great because it's like there's a boost of energy you get and you get this free attention because it's like, hey, I got the most important thing I needed to do done today. And then you take your second 5 lists and you put those on, you know? And so and then as the week goes, other things come up, especially in business. So those things are gonna go on as additional tasks, or this actually was super important for or powerful for me if things came up, I would easily be able to tell somebody, "Okay, I will handle that next Monday or next Tuesday."
Mm.
Just because I mean, if it's a real fire that needs to get put out, obviously you handle it immediately if it needs attention. But a lot of things can wait a few days. So then it's like you stay focused on that week. If it's not something that needs your attention immediately, don't give it that's a distraction. If it's something that can be planned for the next week, what I'll do is go on to the very beginning of the next week and I start my most important 5 sometimes a week or 2 in advance. Like if I know I have a deadline 2 weeks out, well then it doesn't need to go on my schedule this week. It can go on my schedule for next week and that's maybe one of my top 5 important things for the following week. So that helped me have some boundaries around my time, but also be really intentional about staying on track because it's easy to have things come your way and then those things take over and then important things kind of get pushed and pushed and pushed and then before you know it you're behind, and I don't like the feeling of being behind, so staying in front of things that are coming my way. Again, if it's something that absolutely needs my attention, I will give it my attention right away. And then I might move something from the one week to the next week, but
Mhm.
being very intentional about where those things go and how those things get done. And that's really a system that keeps me accountable. So you got to find what works for you. The same thing is not going to work for everyone, but the productivity planner is absolutely something that has um, optimized my schedule and my time and my priorities. And it's a system I use. It's daily planning, it's reviewing my progress and checking out and adjusting any strategy changes that I need to make at the end of each day. It asks in the planner, "How productive was your day?" And you rate yourself. And there are times I'm like, that was great. I was so productive." And there's times I'm like, "Man, I really sucked today."
Yeah.
You're not always going to have on days, but, recognizing what did I learn today? I learned when I don't get enough sleep, I'm not as clear, or, well, if I don't work out, I don't eat as good, and then I feel tired, whatever it is you learn. That's being intentional. It's really being like deliberate about what am I doing? Am I self-sabotaging? How am I self-sabotaging? One of the ways that I learned early on, I self-sabotage 2 things actually. One is I will be like, "I'm hungry." Well, I'm not hungry at all. Like I had to learn that if I got into something that created a little confusion for me or like I just didn't know what to do, my immediate was like, "I should take a break and eat something."
Mm.
It's like, "Huh, interesting. I'm feeling hunger pains all of a sudden,"
Yeah.
but I didn't actually, it was just a distraction. It was a way for me to move my attention from the difficult thing to something much more pleasurable,
Yeah.
like chocolate,
Yeah. Exactly.
or coffee. Like, I should go get coffee, but I didn't really actually need coffee.
Yeah.
So I recognize and those things still come up for me. There's times I'm working on stuff and I'm like, "I should just take a little break and eat," and then I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm not fucking hungry." Like, no, I need to
Yeah.
not eat. I need to sit here
Shut
and
up,
do what I'm
person inside me. Yeah.
like, they need to and I do love food. That's, like, one of my things, so,
Yep.
um so it helped me learn if that feeling comes up, no, that's a distraction, that's sabotaging you from your success. Stay on track, complete the task, and, eat after, I guess. And then, saying things that are not aligned with my goal, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Like, is it aligned with my goal to complete my tasks? If I'm stopping every time I feel difficulty to get coffee or eat or grab some chocolate or something like that. No, it's not. It's not helping me be productive and intentional in every area of my life. That is one of the things that I learned from using that. The other thing was that I would put the fun things that I like to do as my most important task, and I thought that they only took me, an hour or 2, but it's like, because I love doing it, I would get absorbed in certain things for hours, and then, the paperwork, which I actually enjoy now, but I didn't when I first started my business. It was like the paperwork I had in my head, like, it was gonna take me so long and it was gonna be so tedious, and it's like, I might get that done in 20 minutes when in my head, I thought it was gonna take me 2 hours. But if I get that 20-minute thing done because it's the most important thing, now I have a lot more creative attention for the fun thing that I actually, really enjoy diving into. And again, it's shifted now because I like doing paperwork and I like spreadsheets and
Yeah.
I like all that stuff now. But when
But it always fucking works out like that. So we just moved recently, and I had to go back to the old house to get it set up for renters. We're gonna do a long-term rental. And there was things like one of the windows was cracked, outside. One of the window panes was cracked, and one of the, locks was a little bit loose, and another door lock, like, the lock stuck, and got, little nail holes in the walls and shit like that. Just a bunch of little shit that just piles up over time that are like, "Ah, it took me forever to get to that." But now that I was, like, forced to do it and get it ready for the renters, and, like, changing the shower, faucet because it was peeling because it was black and it started to peel. All those things that you're like, "Fuck, this is gonna take me fucking forever to do." Literally doing everything in the house besides obviously the patching because we had somebody come in and do it, but that again, even that was like a 2-minute text message from to my guy like, "Hey, can you come and paint this side and fix these walls?" "Oh, yeah, no problem." But we were able to do everything in the house and get everything ready for the renters in less than 2 days. And the amount of work it actually took, it only took 2 days because one day they had to paint, I wasn't even there. The other day, like, I had to drive up there and, buy a door handle and or tighten the doors or whatever. At the where I was actually there, it took, like, 45 minutes to do
Mm.
everything, like, all the things. It was like, "Fuck, really? That it only took 45 minutes to do all this shit?" That it took like, I was like, "Damn, that's just gonna be so fucking long to have to do all that crap and get it done." But you're absolutely right. Like, do you people postpone and procrastinate, and they're like, "Fuck, it's gonna take me forever to do it." But when you really sit down and focus on it, it takes like 1/10 of the amount of time, or even less that you thought it was gonna take.
Mhm.
And you're like, "Well, fuck, I should have done that earlier."
I mean, that's where that statement, "Making a mountain out of a molehill," comes from, I think, because everybody does it.
Yeah.
So, it's figuring out what you do it about, because it's gonna be different for each person, and then, minimizing the responses that we get, the avoiding or self-sabotaging responses that we naturally
Yeah.
have, and,
But, one part of being intentional that's really important is actually saying no to things. Right? And saying no to things that don't align with your goals. And not only saying no to things, but saying no to people.
Mm,
Because, like we talked about, you are the sum of the people that you hang around. So, if somebody that you know is not living the life you want, doesn't make the money you want, you know, doesn't have kids or whatever, and you have kids, and they just do not live how you want to live, then you should not be hanging out with them. That might sound cruel, but fucking don't. It's
mhm.
a waste of time. Steph and I do not hang out with people really for the most part that don't have kids and don't have businesses. Because I have nothing alike with any of those people. I have nothing alike with anyone single. I have nothing like with anybody that doesn't have kids. And that's it. I mean, there are people that I hang out that don't have kids, but they have businesses. Okay. Or I don't even hang out with people who have kids but don't have businesses because that's just parents of like the kids that my kids go to school with, and I don't wanna hang out with you. My wife does it, and I just kinda get dragged along, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"I got nothing to talk to you people about." But that being said,
Yeah.
saying no and making sure you're surrounding yourself with people that you want to surround yourself with that have developed essentially a culture of initiative, like a culture of being intentional with their lives. This is what I do every single day. Like Sean, I love him for it because the dude will not go out to eat. He will not if you invite him over, he will not eat 90% of what you cook.
Yeah.
Like, he will bring his own shit if he needs to. Like, he
No,
just
we actually did that for Thanksgiving dinner.
yeah,
I
yeah,
had to make him food that we
Good.
could take to Thanksgiving.
Good for him. He's
Like his
fucking
own.
intentional. He's
Yeah.
intentional about his life and his diet and his exercise and what he wants to be, and that's fucking fine. People might think that's weird, but it's because they've never been able to fucking stick to anything in their life.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
good
I
for
mean, he was up, like, when we film and stuff early,
yeah.
he's up at 3 a.m.
See,
so
that
that he can
yeah,
so that he can get
yeah.
his training in
Wow.
and eat before he has to get the baby.
Yeah, so he's being intentionally stupid. Fuck that. Fuck that.
So it's
No.
like by 8 p.m., he's out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we were talking
he's like,
about
"Oh,
it
man,
today.
it's 5:30, I need to have my dinner." Yeah, I'm eating dinner earlier and earlier and earlier. But that's what he's doing. He's focused on, like, what do I have to do to solve my problem? So he's very intentional about that. He's very intentional about his diet and his exercise and what he puts in his body. And, you know, because of that, he's very successful in what he does.
Mhm.
Period. There is no fucking time that I've ever seen Sean or been able to convince Sean to eat anything else other than what he fucking eats.
No, I can't either.
Nothing. Nothing.
But I will
Yeah.
now
And you're giving him poutine and you can't even convince him. I'm not even giving him poutine. But he has to see your titties and you can't convince him. See, that's what you guys need to understand is that this man is so intentional that titties won't even stray him away from
It
his goals.
doesn't.
That's how it should be.
No, but
Ignore the titties. Put that on fucking Instagram.
so good. Early on, when we first started dating, I was very like, "Oh, I can't eat in front of him," right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but then I was like, "Screw that, I'm having my cake,"
Yeah, yeah, this
and
guy wants to make his intentional fucking decisions. I'm gonna eat. I know he's not gonna share it with me.
no, I don't have to
So
share at all, and I don't have to cook his food
yeah,
because he's very specific about how he cooks his
that's
food.
good. That's
And
good.
so, yeah, so that's good, but that goes I mean, in all seriousness, it goes a step further, speaking of Sean, who those of you who haven't heard any of the other podcasts or only some of them, Sean is my significant other. He my baby daddy, and, incredible human being. But when we're talking about intentionality, and yes, he is very intentional with his health and wellness, it goes a step further too. It's not just the aesthetic of it. I mean, it is what he's had to do. It's what he's gotten to do with his whole career is having, a physique that was noteworthy. I mean, he was the naked guy in the bathtub for Cirque du Soleil. I mean, 1,300 people a night saw him in a bathtub.
I'm definitely putting some stringers into my house so he could just swing around in the
Swing around in his
in the
underwear.
living room in his underwear. I'm doing it.
But yes, he did that for his career, but the step further, and I think that upped his conviction level even more after we had the baby, because his father passed away when he was 12, and it had a lot to do with lifestyle.
Oh shit.
And so, he had made a decision early on, like I think he said by 15, 16 years old, that he was going to live a life that was healthy because he didn't want to have kids and be a dad that passed away and didn't get to experience life with them. So he has a bigger why, and I think that's when it comes back to getting clear and make it clear, get specific. He was very specific about why he made that decision when he did. And it was to be the best father or husband or partner because he saw what happened when you don't live healthy. And so, I think that's another thing. Get clear about why. What's your intention? Being intentional, usually, yes, we want to have a business, but why do you want to have a business? I mean, that makes it more personal. It's like, why do you want to build this? It's the impact. I'll let you answer that. Why do you want to build Genesis? What is it that makes you go, I want to be intentional day after day after day doing these things? Because what's the benefit to you?
Yeah, well, the benefit to me isn't about me anymore. It's the benefit of all the families that we employ, all the clients that we take care of, and growing it more and more. And uh, I think people ask me sometimes, my dad has asked me, like, when is enough enough? And it's fucking never, never. For me, no, there is no amount that is enough for me. Period. We can always hire more people. We could always bring more people into Genesis. If we're going to build an absolute powerhouse of a national brand and turn that into an international brand, there is not enough. There is not enough. It just keeps going. It just keeps growing. And if I die before I see the end of it, then so be it. It's not a big deal. There is never enough because I can always help more people. That's the good thing about having a mission and a vision that doesn't end. It doesn't. Like, we are going to build 1,000 clinics. That has an end. We are going to help 1,000,000 people. That has an end. Being the best place to work in the healthcare field, while at the same time getting the best results in all 4 of our pillars, there is no fucking end to that. There's no end. So you can never achieve it, which is a great thing. It's a terrible thing because you know, as a competitive person, you want to win, you wanna beat it, but when you're at the next level of business, you start to realize that you cannot there's no end to what you're trying to build.
Mm,
There isn't. Really, there isn't. You know, there might be a exit strategy where you sell it or whatever, but there should be no end in mind in terms of what you're trying to build or what you're trying to achieve, and you should be intentional about that. And you should be focused on, "Hey, this is where we're going." And again, for me, I specifically made that mission and vision that way so that we can never win.
mm,
There was never a, "Okay, we did it, guys."
mm. Well, we do it all the time, but
100%.
it's never there's never like yeah,
Absolutely.
a final person to help.
Yep.
But you also have a family, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna create all of this stuff and you're gonna be intentional because you're intentionally showing up every day impacts your home. It impacts your wife and your kids and what you can provide and the life that they're gonna have and the things that they're gonna learn as they get older. Like, there's so many layers to being intentional that if you really break down the benefit of it, it costs you so much to not be intentional that it's like, why would you wanna live that life? Like, it's like it just doesn't stop at work, and you have to be proactive, relationships, family, all that mindset. You've mentioned whether or not you're looking at certain things online. Like, I actually haven't posted. I've posted some things in my story, but I haven't actually posted online since, like, November, and I like it. Like, what happens is if I post something on social media, I'm thinking about it throughout the day. It takes up space in my brain because I'm like, who do I need to reply to? Who commented? Did I, whatever. It's like I'm constantly thinking about I got to go back and I got to reply and I got to engage and I got to see it or whatever it is. And it's like I don't when I post a story, I don't think about that. So I have posted some stories and since that time, but I actually haven't posted on social media because for me it keeps my mind more focused on the other things that I want to create.
Mhm.
And so, my mindset wise, like what are you watching? What are you listening to? And health, like are you being intentional about eating 1 cookie instead of 5.
Mhm.
Like, the other night, we went out to dinner, and I was like, "Listen, we have had talk about starting the year, like, with a bang. We have had an incredible January and February,
Yeah.
and at the same time, I have gained, like, 6 pounds
Yeah.
because we've had a lot of dinners and
Yeah.
a lot of events, and
Mhm.
I have eaten a lot of chocolate cake. Actually, no, like, probably more cheesecake than chocolate cake. But, the other night when we were like, "Should we get dessert?" I was like, "Nope. I'm done with that. I gotta get back and be focused on, feeling my best, and that's not necessarily going up on the scale that does it. So I have to be intentional about that and working out and, what I'm putting in my body and things like that. But, it's really being intentional in every area of your life, personal development, included like that. How are you growing? It doesn't just happen. John Maxwell has a book where he talks about growth. And he says in the book, you cannot think that growth just happens. It doesn't. You have to be intentional about growing. So in your personal development and that aspect of growth, it has to be something you're focused on because it doesn't just happen. You don't just grow. You don't just learn new things. You have to want to you have to want to learn and grow. And that It's everything. If you don't schedule it, it just doesn't happen.
Absolutely. 100%. And along with scheduling it, when you have a team, you need to realize that a lot of times your team may not be as intentional as you at the beginning. So you need to teach them to be intentional, just like you're teaching them to replace you in your business and you're growing. One of the biggest mistakes business owner make is, like you're saying, just expecting your team to be proactive, expecting them to just do things on their own. And then at the same time, if they just do things on their own, punishing them for doing so. Again, you're creating 2 negative things. 1, they never wanna be proactive because they get fucking punished for it, and 2, you're just sitting around waiting for them to be proactive. So if you want them to be intentional, you want them to come in every day and say, "Hey, these are the 5 things we gotta do every day to move the business forward." You have to have those standard operating procedures in place. You have to have that conversation of, "Hey, this is how we're gonna be intentional with our day." And at the same time, set those expectations. This is what we have to do to succeed, and anything less than that is not going to be accepted, period.
Which is what we're doing with setting KPIs with our
100%.
teams.
And that's exactly what, Brent did yesterday, where we're like, okay, we know that in order to succeed nowadays with leads, getting them into the clinics, we have to make at least 120 outbound calls a day. 120, that's like the minimum. That is the bare minimum.
Mhm.
Above that is where you should be. 150, 180 calls a day. If you make less than 120 from now on, outbound calls, it's unacceptable from your clinic. And therefore, you could split it up however you need to, but if you're not 100% making those calls, or you can't make those calls because some of the clinics are running very, very lean, then you are going to have to report to Brent and I and tell us that you can't so that we could find somebody who can join your team that can. Not gonna be a negative thing. It's just, hey, you can't physically do it or you can't do it. We're gonna find somebody that can. Now, if you have 10 people in your clinic and you're saying you can't do it, and we find out that half the people in the clinic can do it and you're just lazy,
Mm.
guess what? We're just gonna eliminate some people. That's how it's gonna be. And so you have to make sure that you are intentional and build those KPIs and hold them to a standard. If you want people to step up, if you want them to solve the problems, if you want them to take ownerships, you have to make sure they're not afraid to make those mistakes. So come to us and say, "Hey, we don't have the ability to do this." Okay, cool. We'll put it in. And at the same time, you have to audit what they're doing during the day and ensure that, okay, they're truthfully working on different things and making sure that they have a full, well-rounded team, not just that they're fucking lazy. So you've worked with a lot of teams. You've been in the clinics as well, and you through Genesis at the beginning. Like, how do you see a good leader actually encouraging this, actually helping to create intentionality in their people?
Well, the very first thing is leading by example. The more intentional you are, the people see it and they learn that it's a modeled behavior. We're all doing things, whether it's an indoctrinated behavior or belief, a modeled, like we've seen somebody else do something that we like, so then we do that, or resisted. Like, "Ugh, that person's making a mess of their life. I don't wanna be that way." So we all have these reasons why we do things. So when you model good behavior, and this is something we've talked about before, if everyone was like me, if everyone was doing what I was doing in the organization, would we be better off? So modeling the behavior that you want, that will better the organization. Now this goes in I thi that's kind of a check-in for me in a lot of ways. If everyone was as honest as I am, would the world be a better place? Like, that's the level of honesty I wanna live at, That's the level of transparency I wanna live at. Those types of things are where I check in. Um so first, being the example, I think that's key. You cannot do, and you say this on our calls, do as I say, not as I do, which you hear, that statement.
Mhm,
That is the exact opposite of how we operate as
mhm.
an organization. And a good leader is not going to do that because leadership comes from the top down.
Yep.
And then you have to empower them. You give people. the authority to make the decisions that they want to make within reason. Um, because micromanaging doesn't do anything. That's where you get commitment or compliance over commitment. But when you allow people to explore for themselves, then they learn for themselves. And the best learnings are experiential. You can hear somebody talk all day long and we take in information and we listen to podcasts and yeah, absolutely, but those things are helpful, but what really sticks is when you've experienced something.
Mhm.
So you have to allow people the space to experience themselves in a situation so they can learn how do they operate so then they can shift and be more intentional. So in that sense, you create a space where there's open dialogue and it's safe so somebody can say like I tried doing it this way and it didn't really work out. I didn't get the results that I was really looking for, but that's a coaching opportunity. And then it's like, well, what can you do different? What can you do better? And allow them to see well, a learning that what learning did you have from it? A learning I took from it was this, because each person is going to take their own learnings in every situation. So that's where they're going to make the next best decision for themselves. But you have to give space for that. So
Absolutely.
you have to coach it and you give space for that. And then, reward when they are doing it. So when they are not perfect, nobody's perfect, but when they're growing and when they're willing to have some self-awareness and reflect on, "Hey, that didn't go so well, and this is how I wanna try it next time." Like, reward that because that is where they're going to get to the right answer, and trust the process on, like, when they get there, and that doesn't mean it's like your kids. You're not necessarily just gonna be like, "Do whatever you want. Hope you figure it out," you
Yeah,
know? You're
for the most part.
you're guiding along the way. So you have to guide people. As a leader, you're guiding them to their answers, but you're not telling them what their answers are. And some of that is because 'cause we've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So, but it's giving them space so that they can learn those things, experience those things, and that they can come to some of their own conclusions. Now, if they come to a conclusion that you think is absolutely ridiculous and not gonna be helpful, then you maybe come in and step in and say, "Okay, here's some other ways to look at that. Like, here's some additional perspectives on that." Um One of the exercises that I do in personal development is called multi-dimensionalizing something. And so with a coach, you actually explore a lot of options.
Mhm.
It's really like you're just bouncing like, well, I could do it this way or I could do it that way. There's no right or wrong answer. You are literally just like mind dumping on any option or opportunity or perspective that you could have on this. And what happens is you start to see it from such a wider point of view
Mhm.
that you see things maybe you didn't see before. So I do that with people when I'm leading them, like, well, what about this? Well, have you ever thought about that? Okay, that I can see that. And let's add this to it. So it's just like, and it's not forceful.
Yeah.
You're just allowing them to see, like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, and I think that's good coaching and good leadership.
I had a mentor once, Keith Craft, he's a pastor, and when he has one-on-one meetings, he suggests things. So exactly like you're saying, he says, "I would like you to think about it maybe this way." So he never, like, tells them to do anything directly. The first he said 2 times. "Hey, we talked about this. I would like you to think about it this way." The 3rd time, that's when he's, like, very direct and like, "Hey, you need to do it this way." But
Mhm.
for the most part, at the beginning, he allows people to come up with their own ideas and their own thoughts of how to best do things, or he plants that seed like, "Hey, I'd like you to think about it this way." And so when they think about it, they get the idea of, "Okay, I should probably try that out and see how it works." And it's the same with your kids. Again, you wanna guide them, but you also don't want kids that are afraid to take risks. So again, I yell at my kids if they get close to the second floor balcony and they're gonna jump off or do something stupid, right? But when they get to the bottom of the stairs and they're 3 rungs up and they jump, they're probably only gonna fucking do that once, you know? And my wife is very, scared and says like, "Don't let let 'em do that, don't." Hey, they can't kill themselves, so they do it fucking once. They may not fucking do it again. You know, Geo jumped off the second, stair at the other house and, like, tumbled and hit his head, and I was like I watched him do it, and I was like, "Huh, you won't fucking do that again, will ya?" And he's like, "Ah," like but then he realized, like, "I should probably not fucking do that again." And he didn't jump off the second stair anymore. He waited to the first stair, and he jumped from the first stair.
Lose
So it's like,
paper.
cool, you
Yeah.
learned, and so you want the kids to fail, you want them to fail gloriously like we've talked about, and it's a win because they'll learn that, hey, you cannot win everything, you will lose, you don't get a participation fucking trophy for life. At the end of your life, if you're a piece of shit drug addict, they don't give you a banner on your casket saying, "Good job, you tried." No, nobody fucking gives you that. You wanna be surrounded by people and family and friends because you made something of yourself and people wanna be there at your end. And there's a great I love cartoons. I only watch cartoons because I don't watch reality. I got enough bullshit in my own life. Cartoons pull me away from the reality of
That's
life.
funny. Sean and I were just talking about how great cartoons are.
That's all I watch. I
Yeah.
don't watch anything else but cartoons.
Yeah.
And so, there's a great Disney movie, I think it's Disney, yeah, called Meet the Robinsons. Great concept about time travel and stuff, but the protagonist in that, he ends up trying to fix this, like, little automatic peanut butter and jelly machine gun, right? And it explodes, and everybody around the table, like, is pauses for a second, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I failed." And everyone, like, starts cheering for him, like, "Great job, you failed, that was fucking awesome, way to fail." And, obviously, they don't say that was fucking awesome, it's a Disney movie, but essentially, they cheer him on, they're like, "That's awesome, you failed, good job." And they're like and he's like, "Well, why?" Well, like, "Why is that good?" "It's because you failed because you know that isn't the way to do it this time. So fix it
Mhm.
the next time and you'll be okay. Like keep moving forward." And that was obviously a big theme of Walt Disney in his life and what he talked about. But you want people who want to go for it. You want people who want to try and fail and continue to grow because they're going to learn. If they try and fail the same thing 12 times, then you should probably tell them, stop fucking doing that way. But the people for the most part, they'll learn. They'll realize that if I try this way and I fail, okay, I won't do it that way again.
Mhm.
And so when people, you said, bring up ideas and they're like, that's a terrible idea, it's because we have tried and failed. Either like one catastrophic failure or done the same thing in different ways multiple times and failed.
Mm.
So that's the way you can save yourself from the potholes. That's why we have podcasts. That's why we have masterminds. That's why we have mentors. So you can learn from all the shit that we fucked up on and you can avoid as you're building your business and make it faster. You know, my mentor, Andy, Frisella in the Arte, he didn't make money for 10 years in business before he actually made any money or made a significant amount of money. I think he made like 50, he talks about it, but like 57,000 or $59,000 in the first 10 years of business, like combined, all of it.
Mm.
And then he made money that 11th year and 12th year and 13th, I think 12th year, he made over 1 million and has never made less than that a year since then. But 10 years of making nothing because he fucked up all these times. And so using that knowledge it has helped me navigate the potholes. It's gonna be the same for people in charismatics. Like, I fucked up a lot in the medical business, and Brent and I have fucked up, and we've paid what's called the dumb tax, where you pay money to try things out that they fail, and you're like, "Okay, we won't do that again." But now we know that's not gonna work. This is how it failed, and this is why it failed, so we go in this direction and succeed because we know not to do that anymore because we paid the dumb tax. It's the ignorance tax.
Well, one of the things that you often say that I really like is, if you're going to fail, fail gloriously, which you've mentioned. Reminds me of Sarah Blakely, who created Spanx.
Oh, yeah.
Her dad would. She tells the story that her dad would ask them every night at dinner, "What'd you fail at today?" And it was an
Wow.
opportunity for them to share how they failed and, kinda celebrate essentially, like or not be afraid even. I don't know how much they're celebrating it every night, but it is a sense it's okay to fail, and there's an expectation of failing, and that's accepted. And so it allowed I mean, she's got
Yeah.
an incredible I'm wearing them now,
Oh,
actually.
nice.
She's got an incredible brand, but she attributes a lot of that drive and the desire to try based on the fact that she was told it was okay to fail.
Yeah. I
So
think, Kanye West's mom, he talks about it, whether you like Kanye or not, the dude's stupid rich and an innovator in his field and stuff like that. His mom said the same thing.
mm,
Like, he talked about sitting at home with his mom encouraging him to fail over and over and over. That's what the great, great, great entrepreneurs, innovators, thought leaders all do is that they have gone through failure after failure after failure after failure and celebrated it. It's always a learning experience. You know, there's that cliche phrase, I never lose, I only learn." But there is a little bit of truth to that. Sometimes you fucking lose. It's okay. Like, it's fucking
sometimes
okay. So,
you can learn
as
and
long as you're learning, you can lose,
that.
you can really fucking get your teeth stomped in and still learn something at the same time, but you can lose, yes,
Yeah.
period.
Do you believe the statement though that people are afraid of failure and then that's why they're not proactive?
100%. That what if I fail? Because people don't have parents like Sarah or Kanye that were like, "This is normal. You can fail. That's okay. That's a part of life," and just keep moving forward. Once they get a little bit of resistance in life, or once they start to fail, they start to think it's a reflection of them. Like they're the failure. They're the person who caused it to fail. It's like, no, it could have been anybody in that position. They were gonna fucking fail anyways. So you're just going to pay again. You're going to pay the stupid tax in life. You're going to fail over and over and over, and as you fail, learn from it, and then the next time you won't make that same mistake. So you're a little bit smarter each time, but it takes a lot of stupid tax in order to grow in business. It just like it takes a lot of stupid tax in order to grow as a person. If you're doing all that and you're paying the dumb tax and you're just consistently going back and doing the same dumb shit again, hey, that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same
Mhm.
thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. 100% that people will hesitate because they're afraid they'll mess up. And guess what? You're going to fucking mess up. Period. You can't get around it.
Yeah.
You're going to mess up. So careen off the edge and in your car, filled with a ton of explosives in the trunk and just fail gloriously. And when you hit the bottom and explode, whatever, you'll be fine. Continue to move forward. Brush it off, grow again. Success does not happen by accident. It happens because you are intentional about making it happen. Period.
Yeah, I feel like that too, that feeling of, like, being afraid to fail. It's like, don't take things so seriously. I mean, yeah, there are certain things that are serious, but for the most part, like, if you fail, it's not the end of the world. Like, you're not gonna unless you're gonna die, but you're not gonna die. Like, you're gonna fail and things will be fine. Like, just don't take yourself or other people so seriously. It's like, just enjoy and have gratitude and, laugh about it. I mean, you have an incredible sense of humor, so even when things are, like, not preferred, like the 7 a.m. breakfast or someone that said I talk about our company like it's a cult, you've, like, you make it lighthearted. It's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, whatever."
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, a cult is a good thing. We've
Yeah.
created a strong culture. That's what we want,
It is.
or
It is.
like, "Hey, 7 a.m. breakfast," and then I show up at 7:15 and you're like, "You scheduled a 7 a.m. breakfast and you're not
7:15,
even
more
here."
like 7:15, just to steal eggs and come back, and then, like,
I did actually.
7:55, you showing back up for breakfast, yeah. You're stuck, man, Brent didn't show up till 7:50.
The
I was stuck
baby
there the whole time.
the baby needed some eggs.
Huh, right?
Yeah. But, yeah, I think in order to succeed massively, you really have to just be willing to take risks.
Yep, absolutely. So here's the big takeaway, guys. In closing, intentionality is everything. If you want to be successful in business, you want to be successful in leadership, you want to be successful in your home life, you have to be proactive. You have to be aggressive. You have to be relentless in what you want. And you're going to fail a whole fucking lot, but that's okay because on the other end of that failure is success. It's not just going to show up at your door. You have to go out, you have to get it, you have to create it.
Yes, and, you just can't expect your team or your family to take the initiative if you're not doing it. You have to foster and encourage what that looks like and be the role model for it. So, teaching people around you starts with modeling the behavior yourself and then making sure that you're celebrating efforts of people learning and growing and developing and failing. And also setting the stage for how to live intentional. It is definitely not something I see a lot of people do. And I guess I think the more successful people do it, so, like, at certain levels, there's just it's not shown, so the more you show it and the more you teach how you're intentional, the people around you are gonna do the same thing, and really surround yourself with people that are intentional, because that means greater success for the group since we are the sum of the 5 people closest to us, so fostering that type of culture in your lifestyle and in your business is really where you crush life. Excuse me. And, you can create ownership over your life and the things that you're doing.
Yep. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, damn, I need to be more intentional with what I'm doing, good. That's a good start, recognizing it. Stop waiting, write down what you want, figure out what needs to be done, and then execute. Do it. And if you want to be a part of a group of doers, people who execute every single day, message us. Go to joincharismatics.com, join our group. Look, we are high level entrepreneurs in the medical space who are going to help you get there. We are doers. We are not just we're not sitters. I don't even know if that's a word. We're not shitters. We are just doers. That's it. That's all we are. Joincharismatics.com. We'll see you guys on the inside. And I hope this helps you guys out being more intentional in your life, being more intentional with your family, being more intentional with your business.
So intentionally share this with somebody.
There you go.
We'll see you next time.